One fine Monday morning, just at 8 o'clock, the bees of Roslea all got a great shock. When Leicester was injured, they made no delay, but they sent out dispatches that night in Roslea. From Coonan to Bala, from that on to Crum, with Inver and Shanroe and the robbers from Drum, they all marched in sections to the town of Roslea, to put a full stop to right Roslea. The Clough boys assembled just at the church gate. They seemed in a hurry for fear of being late. Said the head of the bee men, what will we say if we meet with the rebels tonight in Roslea? In the centre of the town the burn did begin. To see them burn houses you'd think it a sin, but most of their bullets they went astray, 'cause they hadn't the tips of right to Roslea. They ran through the street like a bunch of wild boars. They smashed all the windows and hammered the doors. They pillaged and looted and carried away the stuff of poor Catholics that night in Roslea. That very night, month's been in the same year, our volunteers gathered without any fear. 3 houses they burned for each one in Roslea. It was done to the tune of right to Roslea. Some of the boys on the run had to go. They took through the mountains, through frost and through snow. But now they're all home, and at home they will stay. And we'll never stop singing right to Roslea. This building was an old school built in 1876 and is located here at the edge of the village of Roslea on the Monaghan Road, not far from the chapel. Now I have here an old rule book for the school for the years 1919 to 1924. If we look at the week of the 21st of February 1921, we can see that the school was closed by the order of the managers because of the burning of the village. This was a very traumatic time in the history of Roslea and surrounding area. Many people had to leave the area, many businesses were damaged, many houses were burnt. Why did this take place? Now, on account of the Belfast programmes and the shipyard expulsion of Catholics, a Belfast trade boycott was introduced by Sinn Féin, assisted by the volunteers. Brigadier Ono Duffy, who was the OC of the Monaghan Brigade, which covered County Monaghan and East Fermanagh, wrote a letter intended for all traders who did business with Belfast trading houses and forbade them, in the name of the Irish Republic, the handling or sale of all Belfast merchandise. This letter was posted throughout the district. When George Lester, a unionist trader who received the letter, he rushed into Sean Connolly's house across the street and threatened his wife. Lester was also a member of the newly formed Special Constabulary and was armed with a revolver supplied by the British authorities. A report of this incident was sent to O'Duffy, and he replied by dispatch to have George Lester shot. On the morning of the 21st of February 1921, 3 volunteers at 9 AM took up position at the old market house opposite Leicester's shop. They were poorly armed with just 2 shotguns, 5 cartridges and a revolver without ammunition.
As Lester opened the shutters, they fired and wounded him. Only one of the shotguns worked, the other jammed and didn't fire. Lester's brother Thomas, who was also in the specials, ran out of the shop and opened fire on the volunteers with a revolver. The volunteers escaped across the fields to the Town Road, where they were confronted by two B specials who had heard the shooting. When the specials saw that the volunteers were armed, they decided not to challenge them. The volunteers made their way back to their farms after dumping the weapons. Later that day, the company OC, John Tom Connolly, heard that the police and military had arrived in Roslea in response to the attack on Leicester, who had been removed to Monaghan Hospital. An RIC inspector told local nationalists that the police would not be able to protect them from the expected Special Constabulary retaliation. Several families started fleeing the village that evening, and there was a general evacuation of a number of nationalist families. That night at about 9:30 p.m, over 100 B specials and UVF members marched into the village and commenced to burn houses occupied by nationalists. In Upper Main Street, Roslea, they burned 6 houses belonging to Philip Traynor, Matthew Finnegan, James McMahon, Daniel McEntee, Annie Cairn and Hugh McCaffrey. At Lower Main Street, they burned 4 houses belonging to John Tom Fox, James McCarville and the 2 houses of Pat Cloley. They also wrecked a number of businesses. A number of the residents were injured in the shooting and bombing of the houses. A special called Finnegan from Smithborough was accidentally shot dead when his gun went off while trying to break in the door of the parish priest's house. Many of the residents who stayed in their homes that night now fled to neighbouring towns such as Scotchtown and Clones. A large force of specials commandeered Flynn's public house and the market house as barracks. James Flynn had to move his business to the Hibernian Hall in the village. O'Duffy called a meeting of Monaghan Brigade officers in Boyles and Derrahenlish outside Roslea for the purpose of discussing the question of reprisals. During the course of the meeting, Frankie Aiken arrived from a meeting with Michael Collins in Dublin the previous day. Permission was sought from the Director of Intelligence to go ahead with the reprisals. It was decided to burn 16 Unionist houses and shoot 4 A Special Sergeants who were involved in the burning of Roslea. 8 B men houses were allotted to the 1st Battalion Clones, 7 to the 2nd Battalion Scotchtown, and the 3rd Monaghan was to attack McLean's of Thornhill near Smithborough. Roslea Company was to supply scouts to all these houses, and the attacks were to start at 12 midnight on Monday the 21st of March, exactly 1 month after the B Specials attack on Roslea. Also, 2 small groups of experienced volunteers were allocated 2 positions, one at the bridge on the Town Road out of Roslea and the other on the Scotchtown Road, whose duty it was to prevent the B Specials from coming out of the commandeered barracks at James Flynn and at the market house. These specials made no effort other than send flares into the sky. In total, 13 B-men houses were attacked that night and 2 sergeants were shot dead. Of the houses attacked, 5 were completely destroyed, 5 were partially burned and 3 were not burned. At 2 houses, Beatties of Kilcorn and McLean's of Thornhill, the houses were successfully defended by the occupants and the volunteers had to withdraw. At the 3rd house, Special Constable Nixon was shot dead, but the volunteers didn't burn that house. As Commandant Matt Fitzpatrick of Wattle Bridge Company led his men to the Gordon house, he was shot twice in the side and arm while passing a window. As he fell to the ground, his men immediately opened fire and directed it towards the window from which the shots came. Special Constable William Gordon was inside and was shot dead. Matt Fitzpatrick was taken to a safe house but was later captured and taken on to guard to Monaghan Hospital. He later escaped and rejoined the volunteers to be killed at Clones railway station by the Specials on the 11th of February 1922. Out from Matt Fitzpatrick, a number of fallen volunteers were injured during the reprisals, but none seriously. Following the reprisals, a number of clergy from the different churches in the area met the divisional commander of the B Specials, and it was agreed to cease the burnings.